Illinois.
Thank you, Chairman Green and Ranking Member Thompson, for convening us in today's hearing. I gotta move a little so I can see you here, but I wanna start with thanking the Secretary and acknowledging that your work is constantly politicized. And while the border is in your portfolio, it is not the only department's responsibility, as you're also responsible in addressing issues when disasters strike. You're responsible in protecting our economy, securing cyberspace, and critical infrastructure. Why are we not talking about those issues who we know continue to expand the threats to our country every single day? My colleagues to the right only care about the border because they want to carry the narrative that asylum seekers and refugees are illegals. They're an invasion. When we know this is really about a denial of human rights and our commitment to being a country that welcomes immigrants the way we've done in generations before. What we should be discussing today is when is Congress going to pass a law to increase access to legal representation for individuals, making sure families are kept together, and providing a pathway to citizenship for dreamers and TPS holders. What we should be talking about today is cybersecurity attacks. What we should be talking today about is funding that addresses natural disasters. What we should be talking today about is supporting infrastructure protections, the capacity for our TSA workers to do their job. But that is not what we're talking about today. It is nice to see my Republican colleagues suddenly care about migrant children like my little sister who crossed the border at 60 pounds 20 years ago. But where were they when the Trump administration was separating families? Where were they to protect kids in our schools from gun violence? Thoughts and prayers? I grew up in church, and I know that prayer also requires action. Mr. Secretary, I want to be clear. The administration can do a better job in protecting migrant children. I agree with that. And I also look forward to working with you and all of you to make that happen. I also have to say that I am concerned that the Department of Homeland Security is considering reviving family detention. Very simply, any duration of detention is harmful. It is inhumane and it is unacceptable. It undermines the fundamental right to seek asylum. We want to argue that children are at risk. We alternatively have to argue that shutting off avenues to claim asylum will keep kids safe by keeping them in their home countries. But we have heard it. If any of you have ever been to Guatemala, to Chiquimula, to San Isidro, you will know what poverty actually feels like, what it's like to have to live every single day in danger, why you would walk 1,811 miles to get to this country. These people are fleeing their countries with unimaginable poverty. And from my own experience, you've heard me talk about in Central America, they're forced to leave their homes all the time. We must take this problem of child exploitation seriously, but we cannot do it at the expense of our children. This is why I want to talk a little bit more about family detention. And I am aware that there's been conversations around reinstating that. But as you know, people are leaving everything and everyone they know behind. And Mr. Secretary, I'm aware that it is not a final decision on this policy, but I hope to see your department and the administration lead with humanity as you have done and urge not to reinstate any policy that results in families being placed in detention centers. Mr. Secretary, can you provide a full written update on the status of the consideration of family detention to this committee?
Congresswoman, no decision has been made. I encourage an environment, a work environment where people feel free to present their ideas, and we discuss those ideas in a thoughtful and deliberate manner.
Thank you, Secretary. So if there's an update at any time, I would like to be able to receive that. Mr. Secretary, I just want to wrap up here, and I know that we talked about TSA, and I have a few seconds left, but I do want to come back to ask you a quick question about TSA. Would you please explain how expanded bargaining rights combined with increased pay are critical to improving working conditions for TSA officers?
Congresswoman, we have had challenges over the years given the unequal pay, the unfair pay of our TSA personnel, and the lack of bargaining rights that they have suffered. We've had a very difficult time recruiting and retaining personnel. and we believe in fair pay for our extraordinary frontline personnel, for all of the people in the Department of Homeland Security, which is why we are seeking the funding to support that fair pay and the bargaining rights they richly deserve.
Thank you, Secretary, and I yield back.